Joining us now from Las Vegas, two passengers who were on that flight, Sara Straw and David Gonzalez, who you just saw being called one of the heroes for helping subdue the out-of-control pilot. Good morning to you both. And Sara, let me begin with you first. When did you know that something was terribly wrong?
Well, something weird originally first happened. I had gone into the bathroom, and as I was finishing up, all of a sudden I heard a couple loud bangs on the door. Couldn't really understand why. I thought it was just somebody who didn't notice I was in there. Then the door started getting pulled open, and then I heard two dings go off, and later found out that those dings were because the locked door was being tampered with. As I came out, the pilot was there, and he's like, I gotta get in there frantically. After that, I knew something weird was happening, but right then I just kind of maybe thought he was sick. I didn't realize until I saw him basically beeline for the cockpit door after being in the back of the plane for a moment that I realized, okay, something's really not right. It's not a joke. There's not anything funny happening. It
had to rattle you when you see that it's the pilot that's the one banging on the door trying to get in and running past you. And David, how did you become involved?
I actually seen him trying to break into the door to the cockpit, and the stewardesses try to apprehend the guy, and the altercation from the cockpit ended up towards the side door, and I was assuming that he was going to open the door. So I went up to assist the stewardesses, and one was injured, and she says, look, can you help me? So he kept pointing at me and said, you know, you need to pray. And he started talking about Iraq and Iran. As soon as he pointed at me, I grabbed his arm and I put him in a chokehold where it was a little struggle for me to get to his throat to subdue him. So anyway, what happened was I got him to the point where I was able to cut his windpipe and his knees buckled. So I was able to drag him to the aisle to take him down. And once he went down, we got a lot of support from the people, and once we actually had him handcuffed and everything, we wanted to make sure that the passengers were okay. I was trying to educate them that we had the scene under control, but it was a frightening moment at the time, and a lot of people were fearing for their lives. And you know what? It was something that you know I've never experienced before.
Well, no.
I was just happy that I was able to get him down to the floor.
Well, so many of you were heading to that security conference, so it was good fortune that so many of you were trained and knew how. But didn't he break out of the restraints at one point, and then you all had to actually use your belts?
Yes. Yeah, I had access. There was a couple of friends of mine on the plane. I requested to give me one of his belt, and but that time they had used the extensions because he broke the ones for the legs. He just snapped those. But I had already put enough pressure on his neck that he was totally out, and then he was coming to, and so I just wanted to make sure that if he decided to get back up, I was going to be able to control him. But there were so many people that came in and assisted me in keeping him down. We actually landed the plane with me on top of the guy.
I'm going to tell you guys, so, seeing everybody, Sara and David, come together like that, and those kind of moments, and the quick thinking from everyone, and you hear the pilot saying these things, Iraq and Iran, and I know what you said, David. You said, I'll show you Iraq and Iran, and you put him in a chokehold. But Sara, what were the passengers, what was everyone doing when David and the others were subduing the pilot?
Well, besides the few that you saw were more interested in taking the videos, a lot of them were really frantic about thinking about what's going to happen. I mean, everyone was going through the what ifs. What if he had gotten into that cockpit? What would he have done? I know at one moment I looked at one of my bosses who I was sitting next to, and I must have had the fear of death in my eyes, because he got up, and he was one of the gentlemen that helped David keep that guy pinned down for the remainder of the flight until we landed. And then other than that, it was just kind of what is going on, what made this pilot, something triggered him. Right. I mean, he wasn't of sound mind, so it was more of just trying to, it was a guessing game,
I know.
Pretty much.
And we're waiting to hear. And David, a final question to you, or more of a statement. You said, and the other passengers, you give a lot of credit to the co-pilot for having the presence of mind to lock that pilot out of the cockpit.
That's correct. He almost got in there, and then that's when I seen the door buckled a little bit. and then the stewardess kind of took him away from that door. If he would have went inside that cockpit, I would have had a challenge taking him out from there. It would have been a lot more difficult.
Oh, thankfully, that wasn't the case. Sarah, thank you. David, thank you as well. And next time I take a flight, David, I hope you're sitting next
You're
to me.
welcome.
All right.